Hi, Amanda. Thank you for your submission. I want to take a look at your written rationale. Pretty brief. I think that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more information here, specifically regarding to the individual marks that you've created and how they tie into the meaning established through your word list for your client. I think one of the issues that I'm seeing is that these aren't labeled according to those words in the word list. So basically, without that, it kind of appears that you're sketching arbitrarily, which is something that we really want to stay away from. As a matter of fact, I'd go as far as saying you want to stay away from arbitrarily sketching from this moment on in your design career. And I think it's one of the things that we really stress in this class is all of your solutions should be based on decisions, and those decisions should be based on the encoded meaning that you've established for your client. And in this particular case, it's through those word lists. So for your final submission, I would definitely need to see the associated word with each of these word lists so that we can try to establish some sort of tie in between your decision making on the individual thumbnails and how they relate and correspond to the previous research work you've done based on your client. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind. You've got some good visual solutions here, like this one right here where you described this right here. That's fantastic. That's what I'm looking for. And I think that's really important, is to be able to communicate the reasoning and your thought and your intent behind the decisions you've made for each of the individual marks that you've chosen to move forward with. So I'd like to see a more robust written rationale, again, as for your final submission for this task. Let's go ahead and take a look at the work itself. I think that, again, it's really difficult to try to describe here what's going on, because there's no intent in terms of associating these particular marks with the words from your word list. So right now, I would say at this point, I'd like to see more variety, because you've got a lot of marks here that are very, very similar. I think this MP is very similar. The idea is the same, concept's identical, right? Using the vertical stem for the M as the vertical stem for the P, and kind of mixing those two letters together by sharing that vertical stem, right? We see the same thing here and here as well. So I would have liked to see a little more consistency there, but the others I think are showing a good amount of consistency. So the ideas are being generated. I think that that's the most important thing. This is very, very interesting. Now, as you notice, I'm not giving you any suggestions for moving forward. And the reason I'm not doing it is that I'm not going to. And I think it's at this point in the assignment, in this point in this project, I think it's best for you to make those decisions, because you're the one that's working on it. You're the one that's doing all of the research. So I think at this point it would be best for you to decide which is the most expeditious way to move forward in terms of meaning associated with the client, as well as a consistent visual harmony with the other work in the series, specifically meaning the logo that you've developed and the word mark you've developed. So that said, it's important that these three pieces in the branding system, the logo, the word mark, and the monogram, all kind of associate themselves with some sort of central visual language. So in other words, you don't have a logo that looks one way and then a monogram that's just completely and totally different. You want to stay away from that. You want as much consistency as possible. So for example, you wouldn't have your logo a big blocky minotaur, right? And then your drawing, and then in your word mark have a kind of a more of a feminine kind of a feminine typeface that consists of a scripted typeface. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're trying to establish this visual language and use it consistently through the branding series. And the reason I say that is because quite often at this point in the project, you may have to go back and make some changes to the work that you've already done, just in order to maintain and establish, I'm sorry, I should say to establish and maintain this visual consistency. Okay, so good job on your sketches. You got some really good ideas here. And please go ahead and choose the direction you feel to be the most effective in moving forward. And of course, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. All right, thank you very much.